Hello, everyone, and welcome to Flossy Ladies with Zyris. My name is Elaine Bylis. Thank you so much for being here today. The purpose of Flossy Ladies is to interview different women in dentistry of different ages and different specialties. We're going to hear their stories, hear their challenges, and see how they overcame them. My guest today is the Flossy lady herself. Her name is Sandi Hirsch, and she is the CEO and co-founder of my number one favorite dental company, Zyris. Now, Sandi brings a unique perspective to this show because her background is not in the traditional clinical dentistry. So her background is actually in entrepreneurship and business at USC, and she used that entrepreneurial background in order to start Zyris with her husband, Jim, and her brother-in-law, Tom. Sandi, thank you so much for being here. How are you doing today?
Oh, Elaine, I'm doing great. It's just you have such energy. You're giving me energy. I love it.
Yes, that is what I absolutely love to hear. Okay, so for today, I would love to just jump right in. So part of what we like to do with Flossy Ladies is we like to talk to different women in our field and see what kind of challenges they faced along the way. And, you and I, we spoke before. And what I learned from that conversation is that Zyris did not just start overnight. This was a project that took years and years of hard work and determination. And so my first question for you is, what are some of the challenges that you faced along the way, both starting this incredible company and then also, just as a woman in the dental field?
Well, there's a lot of different stages to entrepreneurship. And of course, every entrepreneur, thinks that they can achieve the moon, which is what actually motivates us to get into it in the first place. It's like, oh yeah, this is going to be simple. We just have this great idea and we're just going to make it and everybody's going to love it and they're just going to come flocking to our door and, then I can send my kids to college and retire someday. But even good ideas take a while. It's like I was reflecting after our conversation. I was thinking about, a legendary entrepreneur that we all know in the American culture is Steve Jobs, right? He started this amazing company and Apple was just thriving. And then all of a sudden it wasn't thriving. Mm-hmm. And then he was out. And, the journey that company took, and then he came back. And what Apple is today, I think I personally credit a lot, hugely, to Steve Jobs and the lessons he learned as an entrepreneur. And it's not as simple as it looks.
So what are some of the challenges that you face? Because I know, there were, from our conversation, there were many years that, so you're kind of the financial backbone of this company. Mm-hmm. And so, during those first startup years, what were some of those challenges that you faced?
Right. All related to our optimism about actually starting this business because, I am a CPA and I am, much more numbers driven than either my brother-in-law, who is, an incredible artist and dentist, and my husband, who is also an artist and an industrial designer. And so the two of them are much more on the creative side. And I'm on the practical, I'm on the dollars and cents, the black and white. And so every business plan, which I learned during my education, needs to have that financial forecast where you say, all right, we're going to start out with X amount of dollars, and then we're going to, take this amount to bring out the product to manufacture it. And then you're going to start advertising and marketing, and then the sales are going to happen, and then you run your operations from those sales. We were really optimistic. And, looking back, it's like, what were we thinking? But, again, as entrepreneurs, if we didn't have that blue sky, we would run away, because it's a lot of hard work and it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
But what, combined with my financial acumen, is we just really had a constant focus on learning and understanding and trying to figure things out and experimenting and doing better and failing sometimes, but nothing fatal, thank goodness. It just was a constant journey, and we had to continue trying, and it was really hard because for 5 years we incorporated this company when my youngest was 4 months old. So I had, a tiny baby, and two older children. Timing, you can never necessarily time things in life. You just have to deal with the cards that are dealt to you, or the cards that you seek out yourself, because, we did do this on purpose, but the opportunity was there in front of us, and it's like, we need to take advantage of this. And, was it very challenging? It was. I mean, for several years, I personally felt that I was fighting for my family's survival, because with this idea and us believing so deeply in it, we got another trust deed on our house, another mortgage. I had, a bunch of credit cards, like, okay, well, let's charge them to the hilt. How much cash will they give us? All right, that's what we need to run this business. And so literally for several years there, it was, if we don't make this business, my family is personally bankrupt, my kids are homeless, and we would have, I don't know what to look forward to. So it really was a fight for survival for several years for us.
That is just so crazy to me, because, I use this Isolate mouthpiece all day, every day. And every time I use it, I'm like, man, this is the greatest thing in the world. But in my head, I never think into the history of kind of what went in to creating this product and creating this company. So thank you from the bottom, not just for me, but for my patients who will actually request it now. I mean, it's such a game changer in our field. And I mean, just to know the amount of struggle that went into creating my absolute favorite product is just so incredible. So you mentioned that there were some financial struggles, that there were some risks of maybe even the company failing. How did you feel during that time?
I think I always had the personal belief and faith. It's the only thing that kept me grounded, that we were going to figure this out. And honestly, I have to thank not you at the time, because you weren't a dentist, but back when we started, in those early years, the support and faith that we had from so many amazing friends in dentistry. I remember meeting, and he's a big name now, Samir Puri. And at the time he was just a regular dentist running his practice. But it's support of the dentists and hearing the difference that it made in their practices. That's what helped us to understand. It's like, oh no, we can't give up. There is something here, and we need to make this happen. We need to get to a point where it's sustainable, so that we can bring this to the world, so we can make this difference, because that's why we're all here. It's
amazing. Well, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Now, how did you overcome all of this hardship? I mean, how did you keep that determination when you felt like maybe things were failing? Because I don't know, had I been in your shoes, I don't know if I would have had the persistence to keep going the way you did. So how did you keep your head up? How did you overcome this hardship?
My husband and children will tell you that I am the most stubborn person that they know.
Yes.
And I learned that from my mom. So I think she was an immigrant from Colombia, and just fought her way, as immigrants do, to make their way in American society and make life better for their children. So I learned that perseverance. I learned that grit from my mother, and I don't give up. And, especially when, those years that it involved my family and my children and their future, it's like, oh no. There was no other outcome than success of some sort, something that would mean that we weren't broke.
Amazing.
So I had never dreamed that it would be what it is today, and even more what it can be, what it's going to be. This year, next year, the next decade, changing dentistry forever.
So tell me, what are some of your future goals for Zyris? So, I see you guys have been coming out with some amazing products. The anterior mouthpiece has been an absolute game changer with some of our veneer cases, high-end aesthetic cases. So tell me about where you see Zyris going in the next couple of years.
We are constantly talking to clinicians, and what we really want to be is we have less interest in having a large portfolio than a very select and quality portfolio. We want to have a fairly small number of categories that we enter into, but that we enter in a very deep way and very profoundly, and that we really have an impact on dentistry, the clinical experience for both the professional and for the patient. Because millions have their oral health and therefore their systemic health impacted by how much they take an active role in their oral health. And so we really want to do everything we can to enable the clinician and the inpatient to be empowered to manage and maximize their own health.
Amazing. That's actually one of my favorite things about your company, is that I feel like you guys really care about the clinician's perspective. And so, people from Zyris will actually reach out to me and my father, and they'll just look for input on what do you like, what don't you like, what can we change, how can we improve? And then they actually listen to us and make those improvements. So I've been so impressed with you guys and your involvement of the clinicians. You're not just going out and making products and just putting them on the market. You actually really involve the clinicians, which I think is just so incredible.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm super proud of our team, actually. We've really built that network much stronger. For, I think a few too many years, we relied on a clinical group of, just a couple. My brother-in-law, his best friend, his roommate from dental school, just dentists that we were very, very close to. And, not realizing the power in hearing from many different voices and many different perspectives. And it's been really wonderful to see the similarities and the opportunities that have been raised by that.
It's so true, because every time we bring something up, they're always talking about how we compare to the other clinicians. So they'll be like, oh yeah, like this, and this. They said the exact same thing as you. So we're like, definitely going to change that. And then we had one piece of advice that they were like, you're the only people to say this. I think you guys are like the weird ones here. But no, it's been such an honor to work with you guys. So I want to kind of transition. I want to hear a little bit more about your family life. So, okay, first off, you have 3 kids. The oldest is right around my age. And then you also work with your husband and your brother-in-law. And so kind of how do you balance work and family? And then also, what is it like? So, and as someone who works with her father, I can relate, but what is it like to work with your husband and your brother-in-law?
I think navigating family, that old adage that says, don't get into business with family or friends. There's a lot of truth to that. But I think that's because you have to learn to separate your personal relationships from business, because business is business, and it's black and white, and you're looking for very objective data with which to make your decisions. And your personal relationships should not be impacted by that, because everyone should understand and come to our business relationship that way. And so, was it hard for the first several years? It was. Because, Tom, my brother-in-law, the dentist, is a fantastic, amazingly successful dentist in Malibu. You don't keep a practice like that going for decades without being amazing at what you do. His brother, Jim, is a decade younger. So, when you look at, a little brother like that, it's like, he doesn't know anything, no matter how old he is, right? Because he's so little. And I'm younger than that. So what do I know?
Yeah. Wow.
So I think it took a while to kind of get through that family dynamic, to build credibility for each of our roles and what we uniquely bring to the business. And we've really been that three-legged stool: the clinician, the product designer, and the financial, the business acumen.
Wow. I love that.
When you ask about, my family, my personal family, I do have 3 kids. And as I said, my youngest was 4 months old. And, it's difficult for me sometimes to think about that time. Sorry. Because I was happily semi-retired at home before we started this business. I was raising my other 2. I'd been home for several years, just working a little bit here and there, but, nothing serious, because my husband and I had chosen to really focus on our family. And for my youngest, it was hard. When you're fighting for survival of your business, it's really hard to give up that time with your baby. And hand it to a nanny. But, he grew up just fine, as my friends and family tell me. It's just that mom wishing that I had that time, but, I love him very deeply, and he's doing great. He's a computer science major at USC, my alum. So super happy about that, and just excited to see the young man that he's growing into. But all 3, my 2 sons and my daughter, just love them dearly, and just excited that they have learned lessons that I didn't teach them on purpose, but they learned through observation.
They saw.
Because they watched it every day of their lives when they were living at home. They would listen to their dad and I talk about it at the dinner table, until we finally, they asked us not to. So we had to agree to not talk about isolite at the dinner table anymore. Okay, fine.
My dad too. People are like, you gotta stop talking about teeth. It's getting a little weird.
But with business, it's like, as long as your roles are if my husband and I, because Tom has his practice, so he's not working with us daily as much as Jim and I are, because we're here full time. But if Jim and I are working on the same project for too long, then that's not always a good thing. We need to have that separation.
Trust me, I totally understand working with family as well. I'm right there with you, girlfriend. But oh my goodness. I mean, your story is absolutely incredible. I mean, your determination to have the success and the sacrifice that I have to thank you for making my favorite product. And every day now I use it. I'm like, I look at that piece of plastic. I'm like, there is so much that went into this, like so much grit and determination and struggle. And so it makes me use it in a different light than what I used to. But I do have to say thank you, not just for me, but for every clinician who's using this product and every patient who has benefited from it. I mean, you're changing the face of dentistry, and it's truly incredible. But just to finish up, so what would be your number one? So you have a very unique path within this field, but what would be your piece of advice for clinicians and business people who are looking to maybe start a company or to follow in your footsteps?
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about this because, I'm not a clinician, and, to come on Flossy Ladies, like, okay, what do I have to offer? And I was thinking about all those wonderful, amazing independent practices throughout the country. And, all of you are entrepreneurs, and, you graduate from dental school, but you don't have the benefit of that business school education. And you're just thrown in, and all of a sudden you're supposed to be an expert in all these things, because that's really what it takes. Every business takes this to a degree. We have got a little bit bigger challenge because we're a manufacturer and, creating a product. But every dentist, you all know the challenge of marketing, of human resources, of managing your staff, of managing financial resources. And I think the one thing that I would recommend for especially women, everyone, but especially women, is to really try and focus on what you're doing at the time. We are, as women, I think we pride ourselves on being able to multitask, but that's really a misnomer. It's not multitasking. No one can do that. What we do is we switch tasks. Now, we might switch like every 5 minutes, or, switch every half hour. But, the more that we can focus our energy and our time and attention onto what we're doing at the time, whether it's business focused, whether it's working on your patient, or whether it's spending time with your child for that special time. Going back to my youngest, mm-hmm. I actually enrolled him in a co-op, which I don't know, for those of you that aren't aware, it is a preschool that you actually have to involve and be actually on site as a teacher. And for us, it was, one morning a week. I had a nanny, a full-time nanny, who took care of him every other day. But for that one morning a week, I had my child. Sometimes it felt like that was the only time I actually spent with him. But I could focus there, and I could forget the business and not think about other things. So when we're focusing on marketing or developing a new product or trying to navigate the financial challenges that we're encountering, focus and really paying attention to what you have at hand is going to bring you the greatest degree of success.
Wow. Sandi, you are amazing. You are an inspiration, and you're truly changing the face of dentistry. I'm so honored to just be in your presence today. So thank you so much for being here and for chatting with me. I appreciate it so much. For those of you watching, if you enjoyed this, please like, please share. If you have any questions for Sandi or for myself, please leave them in the comments down below. Please. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing weekend.
Thank you. Goodbye.